Welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have a special guest. He's the author of the book Habit Hacks, and of course, the podcast host of How to Be a Person, no other than Mr. Giuliano Grimaudo.
That's me. Thanks so much for having me, Daniel.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Giuliano. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, my name is Giuliano Grimaudo. I was born and raised in Chicago, but now I live in Arizona with my wife. We have two cats, which we viewed as our kids up until now. But my wife is pregnant with our first kid, and he should be coming into this world in maybe about 3 months from now. So that's pretty exciting. But it's also part of the reason why I decided to start my podcast, why decided to start writing my books, is because my kid's coming into the world, and I want him to live in a world where I'm living the way I expect him to live, which is living up to his potential and doing what he's here to do.
Mr. Giuliano, congratulations! And thank you for sharing your talents to the world, being an author and, of course, a podcast host. So let's do combine together a habit hacks and how to be a person. What do you think, or what does it mean to be a person in today's world?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, when I started my podcast, it all kind of came because I've driven for Uber and for Lyft for literally over a decade. Okay. Like when I started driving for Uber, like people were wondering, what is that? What I would tell them about, they're like, you're letting strangers in your car.
Yes.
Like that's how long I've been doing it for. And in that time, I've basically had a revolving door of people getting in my car. And I've just had, if you can't tell, I'm a very talkative person. So I
Yes.
have conversations with a lot of people. And I, for me, I noticed a pattern. Two things. First of all, I noticed that like no matter who got in my car, that there was a path to having like a really good conversation with them. And a lot of times we interact with so many people on a daily basis that we just kind of like we tend to like gloss over the fact that this is like an entire person with a story and something to add and like an opinion and a worldview and all of those things. And I just had all these amazing conversations and I loved it. The other pattern I've noticed is that in my experience, which is quite the varied experience, but I will say in my experience, because I say that because people be like, wow, it's just naive. But I have had quite a varied experience. But what I will say is that I've noticed that at the base that people are good. And that's something that I believe. I believe like the default setting of human beings is good. And I enjoyed having these conversations. And so I figured, let me take this to a podcast. So that's what I do on my podcast. I have people come on. We don't have much of a conversation at all ahead of time. I don't know much about them. We just talk, and
Yes.
it's been going really well.
Talk under the sun. Anything
Yeah.
under the sun. Will-
Yeah, well, and when you talk about like what does it mean to be a person, like
yeah.
I'm actually writing a book right now called How to Be a Person. And in that, like for me, it's something I want to be able to like pass on to my son. Like, hey, this is everything I've learned about life up until now. Here's how to be a person, right? But I feel like
Okay.
at the core, it's just about being open. That's like when I have these conversations, right? Like I don't really know much. I don't know if these people have the same views as I do on anything, right? I
Yes.
just have them on, we have a conversation, and I think if you're willing to be open and approach life from this perspective that no matter how sure of something you are, there's always a slight chance that you could be wrong. I think that you can have a great life. And to me, that's how I've had gotten everything that I wanted in my life now, was not being rigid, but being open to new experiences, open to different perspectives. So
Yes. To open everything. And I hope Uber will sponsor our podcast. We love Uber. Please do sponsor our podcast, please.
That'd be
So,
hilarious.
how can someone develop a strong sense of identity and purpose?
Another great question. Um, what I found is that okay, so a lot of people were raised this way, right? Like
Yes.
where you are, as you're growing up, you're kind of, there's this path that's set for you. You go to school and they're like, do this, don't do this, pick a path, right? Like figure out what you're going to go to college for, XYZ, all these things. And a lot of it is just put on us, right? It's handed to us and like we just accept it. For me, I believe that like part of having a strong identity is actually the opposite of that, right? Like you don't want to pigeonhole yourself. You want to be open, like I said before, but I've gotten to a point now where I just view myself as essentially like a scientist of life.
Mm. Yes.
So I don't like, there's nothing, sorry, this came about because always wanted to try different things and I would try them and then eventually I would get bored and move on, but I would have all this guilt about it, right? I would be like, oh man, there's something else I didn't stick with, instead of recognizing that that's the whole point. Right, that's the whole point, is go experiment, go do
Yes.
things that excite you right now, and it doesn't have to excite you forever, but if you're enjoying it right now and you go, wow, that was a great experience, and you don't hold, right, you don't think, well, but I have to be that now, or I have to keep doing that thing, but just appreciate the experience for what it was, then you get to move on and enjoy something else. But the point of all this is if you go and experiment and do what you feel compelled to do right now, along the way, you go, oh man, I'm really good at this. Oh man, I really like this. Or you have an experience that goes, okay, yeah, that really solidifies this viewpoint that I have on XYZ subject, right? So for me, building a strong identity is actually what's funny is the
Mm.
opposite of what someone might describe as being like firm or rigid, right? It's more about
Yes.
being open and fluid and just being like, well, maybe this or maybe this, and kind of experimenting. And as you do that, you start to get a strong sense of what really matters to you, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and what you want to do going forward.
Very well said, Mr. Giuliano. Very well said.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, how would you connect habit hacks to how to be a person?
Yeah. So I was just telling someone this analogy earlier. Okay. Um, well, before I get to the analogy, for me, when I wrote this book, I kind of envisioned it to be the thing that I would hand to myself. If I could rewind maybe 7 or 8 years back to when I was struggling to like start new habits and like, let's just say like eat right or exercise or all those things, going back to myself at that point, like what would I give myself? And it's this book. And to me, when I look at the connection between habits and what we've been talking about, right? Which is living your life and finding what you feel makes you fulfilled and living your purpose and all of those things. I believe that habits are part of the foundation. And the way I look at it is like riding a bike. Okay. When you
Yes.
don't know how to ride a bike, it seems very daunting. If you're trying and you're not able to do it, you're like beating yourself up, all of these things, right? And then once you're able to ride a bike, now you can just take the bike places. You're not thinking about how to do it anymore, right? You go, now you can take it to school. And I'm thinking about like when you're a kid, right? You go to school or maybe you go to your friend's house or something like that. The point of the bike is not learning how to ride it. The point is that once you learn how to ride it, now it can take you places. And that's why I wrote the book the way I did. The book is super short. It's literally 80 pages. It's something you could probably read in one sitting very quickly, but I just kind of want people to get this whole habit thing out of the way. There's so many books, there's so many things
Yes.
about habits, and it just feels like too much. And so that's
Done.
why I wrote this super thin book. It's 3 parts, and but obviously we're talking 80 pages. So these are very short parts. The first part talks about mindset, which to me I believe is like the foundation, mindset and identity. The second part lists all of the different habit hacks, which are basically little things you can do to help you implement habits. And then the last part talks about like some roadblocks you might have along the way of implementing habits. But it's super short. And to me, like that's the idea is like, let's get past this, right? Like once you're able to implement any habit that you want, then you can go live your life and do the thing you're meant to do instead of rehashing this whole thing about habits over and over again.
Certainly, Mr. Giuliano. Again, congratulations for another milestone.
I
And
appreciate
and we are hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come.
that.
So let's talk about emotional intelligence and
Sure.
relationship.
Sure.
How can you become a more empathic and understanding of others?
That's a real interesting one. So when I think about emotional intelligence and, like you said, becoming empathetic to other people, I think part of it is realizing that, you know, how earlier we were talking about having conversations. And like once you really get into a conversation with another person, you realize, oh, there's like literally an entire world inside of this person. Just like you and I, like every day, like we have all of our thoughts, we have our routines, we have things we do, we have plans for the future, we have hopes, we have, you know, loss, all the things we experience. I think when you realize that every single person is like that, then you see the potential, right? And you're like, oh,
Yes.
okay, I can see. I love that you mentioned empathy because I've noticed a lot lately, especially just with everything that's going on with politics. People like to pick a side, and then the other side becomes the bad guy. We're the
True.
good guys, you're the bad guys. And for me, if you are able to have empathy and put yourself in other people's shoes, then that should never happen. So remember earlier I was saying like I believe like the default of human beings is good. And
Yes.
that's why to me like I don't pick a side when it comes to these things. Like yes, of course I'm going to have my own viewpoint on specific issues, but I don't identify as like one political side or the other. And for me, the reason is because of that, because I'm like, I'm not making anybody the enemy. In my mind, this is another human being who has thoughts, dreams. They just want to be happy. They just want to be healthy. They just want to have a good life. And yes, their
Yeah.
perspective on it might be different than me. But that doesn't make them a bad person. It just makes them different. And I think if we're able to have conversations with people and like be open and hear other people's perspective, then you can see maybe where they're coming from, you know?
Certainly. So, how does it mean to truly listen to someone?
I was just talking to my wife about this earlier today. So I had some friends who, not in the
Yeah.
way you think, so
Yeah.
funny. No, but I was talking about this with her earlier today because I had some friends who like really helped me at one point in my life because I obviously love talking, but I was not a very good listener. And whenever I was having conversations with people, I was always thinking about the next thing. Like, how am I going to respond? What am I going to say? And because of that, not only was I not present in the conversation, but then I would like cut people off, right? They're in the middle
Yes.
of saying something and you cut them off to say your own thing. So when it comes to like truly listening, it actually involves just being present and not getting in your head. I don't, you know, I can't like give someone specific advice about how to do it, but I actually think really what it comes down to is like genuinely being interested in other people. There's like a trend nowadays to just be like, people suck. I hate people. And it's hard to listen when you actually think people suck. But if you believe like people are good and I'm genuinely interested, it's kind of like, you know, it's funny, the question of how can I be a better listener? Like, how can you be a good listener? It's like, well, how do you listen to things that you care about? Like,
Yes.
how do you pay attention to things that matter to you? There is no such thing as how, right? You just do it because you care. You do it because you're interested. And so for me, it's like if you want to be a better listener, it's like, well, then just be interested. Be
Yes.
interested in people, be curious. And when you do that, like you will naturally be a better listener. I mentioned those friends earlier who helped me out. That was, you know, part of what they shared with me. It was just like being genuinely interested in people and yeah, being
Yeah.
curious.
Definitely. So let's talk about the character integrity of your podcast. How does it mean to have integrity and why is it important
Integrity with regard to what?
to your podcast itself or to your books itself?
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, you know what's funny? The whole idea of integrity to me is just about being authentic, right? Like if I'm showing you 100% of myself, then there's no question of my integrity, right? Like if I'm showing you me, like you know you're seeing me. This is one of the things that I've experienced a lot in my life. I don't have a filter, right? Like what's happening in my brain is what's coming out of my mouth. And I think like if more people did that and like didn't think about well or like worry about what people were gonna how people were gonna respond, I think there would be more authenticity, there would be more integrity. And for me, I think integrity is super important. Like overall, I'm like obviously I think having integrity is important, but I think that integrity is a natural byproduct of just being 100% authentic.
Certainly. Totally agree, Mr. Giuliano. So, how do you make ethical decision when faced with difficult choices?
Mm, I really like that one. So it's actually really funny you say that because I was raised like super religious, and there was a point where when I made decisions, it was always like, what's the right decision? Like, what's the right thing to do? And now that I'm not that person anymore, I'm a different person. I don't I really don't believe in looking to an outside standard. What I said to you before, I stand by. Like, I believe people are good. And when it comes to making a decision that is ethical, I believe we all know what the answer is. And so for me, like that's the advice that I give, and that's how I make decisions. Is like, what do I feel is, and I don't even say right thing to do. What do I feel compelled to do right now? That's the question I ask. And because it's not about it being right or wrong. I believe if you do what you feel compelled to do, this is because I believe that by default human beings are good. If you do what you feel compelled to do deep down, not what not what you might in the moment be angry or something like that.
Yes.
I mean, deep down, what do you feel compelled to do? And if you do that thing, I believe that will always be the right thing. It will be the ethical decision.
Yes, indeed. I give you a applause again because it's so empowering, Mr. Giuliano.
Wow, so
So,
many rounds of
yeah.
applause today.
Yeah, so empowering. So, what will be your short term and long term goals in writing as well as podcasting?
Well, I've written this book, Habit Hacks, which I'm really proud of. It's something that it's a really short book, but I really think if someone's struggling, like I'm really proud of this. I really think it can help them. But short term, I'm writing the other book that I mentioned to you, How to Be a Person. I'm really excited about that one. This one it's basically going to be the personal development book of all personal development books. That's kind of my goal, is just to pour everything I've done into this book that I can pass on to my kids. So obviously he won't be able to read the second he's born, but that is my short term goal, is to have it written and published before he's born in the next 3 months. Long term, what's funny? A lot of people who've come on my podcast, they're
Yeah.
like, you're like the next Joe Rogan, which makes me
Yes.
laugh because I'm like, I'm not trying to be Joe Rogan. I'm just trying to be me. But that is kind of what it feels like. Like long term, I just have people on. I honestly love people and I love talking to people. And so if you look at any of the episodes, you can see we talk about like just a giant range of different things. And so long term, I would really love to just be able to talk to more people on my podcast. Like I would love to be able to do that every day. Like if I could get to a point where every day I'm having a conversation on a podcast, and someone's able to sponsor it, so that's what I can do every day. I would absolutely love
Awesome. Connect with the companies.
that. Well, the thing is too is with the podcast, like
Yes.
my experience, what I shared in my experience of like being open, listening to other people's perspectives, seeing that people are good, seeing that we
Yes.
all basically want the same thing. I want other people to see that. Right. So, like, for
Sure.
me, that was my experience in Uber. And I'm like, I want other people to have this experience. And that's the goal of the podcast. So, really, what I want long term is to have all of these conversations, but also have a ton of people hear these conversations so they can have that same realization.
Yes. Good luck to your goals, Mr. Giuliano. And I
Thank you,
hope your
Daniel.
next book will be like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And you'll be the next Joe Rogan, How to Be a Person. Ah,
So
amazing.
funny.
Yes, that's
Thanks,
not
Daniel.
funny. Dream big, as they said. Who
Yeah,
knows,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
We are dreaming big right now. So let's talk about the contribution and community. How does it mean to be good member of a community or society?
I actually believe that the way that we can serve other people the most is by becoming the best version of ourselves. So for me, I believe if someone is focused on, like I mentioned before, doing what they feel compelled to do and pursuing what they feel like is their purpose, I believe that is what will allow people to make the biggest impact and help as many people as possible. This is very different than the way I was raised, not necessarily by my parents, but I would say just by everyone I was surrounded with while growing up. And I think it's different than the way a lot of people are raised. Like I was taught to like put others before yourself. And I don't disagree with that in principle, meaning like I care about other people a lot. But it's, there's that always that comparison. See, this is what's funny. There's always that comparison of like, when a plane's going down, like what do you, if you put your own mask on first, then you can help other people. Okay, that's true, but like, why is the plane going down? Right? Like I'm sitting here talking about potential, right? I'm
Yes.
not talking about survival. I'm talking about potential. And ultimately, if I like, it's easy when you think about it in terms of like a family, right? If one person in a family is able to be a billionaire, then they can help everyone in their family. And I'm not saying, to be honest, I don't really care about being a billionaire. I don't want that necessarily, like specifically as a goal. But what I'm saying is that like the more potential that you reach, the more you're able to help. And it's easy to see in that like family situation. You're like, oh yeah, if one of us had $10 million, then that helps all of us. And it's like, okay, yeah, the same principle, the same rule applies with humanity. The more successful, meaning like reaching your potential, the more people that do that, the more that humanity itself gets raised up. And so to me, ultimately, I feel like contributing to other people starts with what is it that you are meant to do, and then go do that thing.
Certainly. So, Mr. Giuliano, can you share one of your favorite chapter in your book, Habit Hacks?
Yeah, sure. Um, Honestly, my favorite is actually the very first chapter, which talks about, like, remember I said part one is talking about the foundation of mindset and identity. Um, I really do feel like that is the basis of everything when it comes to habits. And so that is my favorite chapter. I talk about a few different things like this concept of long haul, start small, meaning like if you're willing to be in this for the long haul, like if you really want this habit to be a long term thing, then you have to be
Yes.
willing to start really small and work up to the point where the point of where you want to be. But there's obviously like there's a bunch of things that I talk about in that chapter about mindset. And if you can't tell, mindset is really important to me in general as a person. So that's part of the reason why that chapter is really important to me.
Certainly, mindset is very important, people. So, before we wrap up our discussion today, Mr. Giuliano, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, in its fifth season, people, fifth season, with Chef Alessandro, one of the specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our latest episode. We are reading our letter senders all over the world. So, please do listen. Food 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Giuliano, how can everyday actions, big or small, make a positive difference in the lives of others?
Well, like I mentioned before, when you're working towards your ultimate potential, that is what will allow you to have the biggest impact in the world. But like I also mentioned about the long haul, start small. Don't be afraid to start small. There's this one of the things I talk about in the book is 1 degree wins, where and I think people have heard this comparison before. But if you were to take off, in a plane from California to New York, but if you were to point the nose just 1 degree east, it's like you'd end up in a completely different spot by the time you reach across the country. And so it's the same thing. Like, yes, you can have big goals and you should be like working to reach your potential, but do not underestimate the power of making tiny changes right now and tiny steps towards that goal because it can completely change where you end up and it can completely change the impact that you make on the world.
Mr. Giuliano Grimaudo. Grimaudo, sorry. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. We are looking forward for more and more and more empowering episodes and empowering books to come. So can you please invite our listeners to support your podcast as well as your book?
Yeah, absolutely. All the links to everything are at howtobeaperson.co. So if you go to howtobeaperson.co, there's a link to the book, link to the podcast, link to a course I have, all of those things. And I'll be adding stuff in there as well. So anybody that wants to hear anything or connect with me on social media, everything's at howtobeaperson.co.
Definitely. And please do make courses too. Okay? After the podcast, after the books, courses, how to be a person.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, people, we are reaching out. If you're interested to, please do support our podcast. We are much, much welcome to accept all those support if you are willing to support us. Mr. Giuliano, How to Be a Person, and of course, Book 101 review. So, Mr. Giuliano, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.